Welcome, everyone. Today we're doing a deep dive into something really fundamental, honesty and truth-telling. But it's surprisingly complex, isn't it?
It really is. We're looking at this landscape of deception, why it seems so, well, common, and what that actually means for our relationships, for our ability to love.
Right. And our mission really is to unpack a whole stack of sources that might challenge how you usually think about truth and lies.
Yeah, we've pulled together some fascinating insights. We'll be drawing from John Wellwood, who writes so beautifully about relationships, but also digging into Cicely Bach's classic work, Lying, and M. Scott Peck's The Road Less Traveled.
And there's more, too. We've got Harriet Lerner's The Dance of Deception, Dory Hollander on Lies Men Tell Women, John Stoltenberg's The End of Manhood, Victor Seidler's Rediscovering Masculinity.
Some heavy hitters there.
Definitely. And Dorothy Dinnerstein's The Mermaid and the Minotaur, which is truly groundbreaking stuff on sexual arrangement. It's quite a mix.
It is a really rich tapestry, as you said.
So maybe let's start with that beautiful idea from John Wellwood. He talks about intimate relationships as potential sanctuary.
Right, a sacred space away from all the facades we put up in the world.
Exactly. Where unmasking, really speaking our truth, sharing our struggles, our messy bits, allows two people to genuinely connect.
To meet and touch more deeply, it sounds like the absolute ideal, doesn't it? A safe haven.
It really does. But, and this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, this is the kicker.
Despite wanting that connection, our sources, sociologists, psychologists, they've documented this stark reality. People are lying more and more every day.
It's a huge contradiction, isn't it, between that longing for authenticity and the actual behavior.
It's pretty shocking when you put it like that. And we're not just talking about, the massive, life-changing lies.
No, not at all. The sources emphasize it's often lies about the most insignificant things.
Right. Think about it for a second. How many times do we just automatically substitute a little lie when someone asks, hey, how are you today?
Uh-huh. Fine, even when you're not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What does that kind of habitual, everyday lying tell us?
Well, it signals something pretty profound, I think. Cicely Bach, in her book Lying, she really called attention to how deeply ingrained this has become, how common.
It's almost like an accepted norm, you mean?
Practically. And a lot of this everyday stuff, it's done to, avoid conflict or supposedly to spare someone's feelings.
Okay, so someone you don't really like asks you to dinner. Instead of saying, no thanks, or just, I'd rather not.
You invent something, make up a story, tell a little white lie. It feels like a quick fix.
A quick fix, yeah. But what about the long term? What are the consequences of all these tiny quick fixes? And, where do we even learn this stuff? Do we just absorb it, or are we actually, taught it?
The sources suggest it often starts way back in childhood. Learning to lie as a way to dodge punishment, maybe? Or avoid disappointing mom or dad?
Ah, okay.
Yeah, think about those times when a kid tries out the honesty they've been told is so important.
Right, because parents tell you, always tell the truth.
Exactly. But then the kid tells the truth, maybe admits they broke something and they get punished anyway, or they say something honest but maybe socially awkward, and the parent gets embarrassed or upset.
Oh, I could see that. So the message they actually get is
that truth-telling can hurt. It causes pain, maybe for them, maybe for the parent. And lying. Lying helps avoid that hurt.
that must be incredibly confusing for a child. You're told one thing, be honest, but you learn this sort of convenient duplicity.
Good way to put it. And then, as they get older, they start noticing, don't they, how often the grown-ups around them bend the truth, how few people seem to really tell it like it is all the time.
It sounds like it normalizes deception pretty quickly from a young age.
It can. And what's interesting is how kids react differently. Even in the same family, you'll see some kids become masters of dissimulation, putting on whatever face works.
Little actors.
Right. While others just can't seem to hide what they're feeling. But that childhood pretense, if it becomes a habit, can be a slippery slope. One source even mentions a 10-year-old girl who got a kick out of the power lying gave her over adult.
Wow. Enjoying making them act on things she knew weren't true.
Yeah.
That's quite disturbing, actually.
It is. And it seems this early learning carries right on into adulthood, doesn't it? Especially, our sources suggest, for men.
Yeah, the sources point to men often using lies to avoid confrontation or maybe avoid taking responsibility for inappropriate behavior. Dory Hollander's book, 101 Lies Men Tell Women, states pretty clearly that while everyone lies,
Both men and women, yes.
men tend to lie more and with more devastating consequences. So what do the sources say about why? Why might that be the case?
Well, this brings us to Dorothy Dinnerstein's work, The Mermaid and the Minotaur. It offers a really fascinating perspective on this, particularly looking at early development. She suggests that when a little boy realizes his mother, who seems all-powerful to him, actually has very little real power in a patriarchal society.
A society where men hold the main positions of authority, yeah.
Right. That realization can be deeply confusing, even enraging for him. And lying, Dinnerstein argues, can become a way for him to act out that rage, to try and make her feel powerless, to manipulate the situation so he feels more powerful.
Huh. So lying becomes almost a tool for gaining power, for asserting dominance.
In that framework, yes. And what's really striking, our sources note, is how this plays out later. You might see men who are scrupulously honest in their jobs,
Right, wouldn't dream of lying at work.
but then lie constantly in their intimate relationships. The sources suggest this is particularly true for heterosexual men who might, consciously or not, see women as more gullible, thinking they can get away with it, that the lies will just be forgiven.
And that raises a tough question. Why does it seem like male lying is maybe more accepted, or at least tolerated sometimes?
That ties into broader cultural patterns, into how power and privilege work in a patriarchy. The very idea of what it means to be a man, historically, has often included this notion that men can bend or break rules.
Like they're somehow above the law.
In certain contexts, yes. And there's often this underlying message given to boys that being totally honest, showing vulnerability is somehow soft.
Yeah.
Whereas being able to be dishonest, maybe even indifferent to the fallout, that's seen as making a guy hard. It separates, quote, the men from the boys.
That's a really chilling idea, that honesty could be framed as weakness or even like a betrayal of masculinity itself. John Stoltenberg gets into this, right, in The End of Manhood.
He absolutely does. He analyzes how the traditional masculine identity pushed by patriarchal culture essentially requires males to create and live out a false self.
How so?
Well, from childhood, boys are often discouraged from crying, from showing hurt or loneliness or fear. They have to be tough. So they learn to mask their real feelings, or maybe even disconnect from them altogether.
Just not feel things.
Or at least appear not to. And Victor Seidler, in Rediscovering Masculinity, adds to this. He says that as boys learn language, they very quickly learn how to use it to conceal themselves.
Wow.
This distance from their own feelings makes lying easier, almost second nature. It's like operating in what Seidler calls a kind of trance state, just deploying these learned survival strategies of manhood. And this often means they can't easily take responsibility when they cause pain because they're disconnected from their own emotional world.
But here's the paradox that stands out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Despite this whole male masquerade, as you call it,
Mm-hmm.
the sources suggest that inwardly, many men still feel like victims of lovelessness. They still want love, even if they've been taught to act like it doesn't matter, like they're above needing it.
Exactly. It's a deep internal conflict. Lying, seen as this form of acting out, can almost become this twisted expression of rage about love failing them.
So to really buy into traditional patriarchy, men have to kind of suppress that basic human longing to love and be loved.
That's the argument. Patriarchal masculinity often demands seeing oneself as superior to women and maintaining that control, quote, by any means necessary. Carl Jung pointed this out insightfully, didn't he? Where the will to power is paramount, love will be lacking.
That really resonates when you hear women talk about their experiences in relationships. You hear these stories about that willpower and how lying, even just withholding information, is used to control, to subordinate. And sources highlight something interesting. The idea that maybe the cultural acceptance of lying actually increased as women started gaining more social equality.
It's a provocative point they raise. As women gain more economic independence, perhaps men seeking to maintain dominance had to shift tactics, move towards subtler strategies to disempower.
So even a successful independent woman
Can be completely undermined, brought down, as one source puts it, if she's in a relationship where she deeply wants love but is constantly being lied to. The betrayal just shatters her confidence, her self-esteem, especially if she really trusts her partner. It's like a form of psychological erosion.
We focus a lot on physical abuse, understandably, but the sources are clear. Psychological terrorism is real, and lying is called out as one of its most potent weapons. Emotional psychological abuse.
Definitely. But it's crucial to note, it's not just men engaging in deception. Harriet Lerner, in The Dance of Deception, really challenges women to look at our own roles in maintaining these structures of pretense and lies.
Okay, so what does she say about how women participate in this dance?
Well, Lerner points out that traditional patriarchal femininity, the pressure on women to act perhaps weaker or less capable than they are, also socializes women to wear masks, to lie.
How so?
She argues women can become quite comfortable lying to men, maybe to manipulate them into giving them things they want or feel they deserve. This might look like pretending to feel emotions they don't actually feel.
Faking vulnerability, maybe.
Exactly, or faking a level of neediness that isn't genuine as a strategy.
And the sources mention this can even extend into really personal areas, right? Like decisions about having children.
Yes, there are examples given of women being almost coached in how to lie to male partners about wanting children, sometimes even encouraged to disregard his feelings entirely if her desire is strong enough.
That's deeply problematic.
It is, and tragically, actions like these, even if driven by individual desires or perceived needs, end up reinforcing those age-old sexist stereotypes about women being inherently deceitful. You know, the Eve myth, essentially.
Right. And then when men feel lied to or manipulated in that way.
It creates this opening for them to blame women generally, maybe even justify misogyny, and the whole damaging cycle just keeps going.
Okay, this feels like a good point to bring up something else the sources distinguish.
Yeah.
Privacy versus secrecy. Because often when people withhold information, men or women, they frame it as protecting their privacy.
Yes, and that distinction is absolutely critical.
So what is the difference, according to these thinkers?
Healthy privacy, they argue, actually strengthens bonds. It's about having your own space, autonomy, choosing what you share and when. It respects individuality within the connection.
Okay, that makes sense. So secrecy is.
Secrecy is almost always about power dynamics. It's about hiding, concealing, usually out of fear or for manipulation, and it invariably involves lying, either direct lies or lies of omission. You know, many recovery programs have that saying, "You're only as sick as your secrets." That really underlines how secrecy weakens and damages relationships. It always creates the potential for betrayal, for trust to be violated.
It's the hiding aspect that's corrosive.
Precisely.
So let's try and pull some of this together. We've traced how deception can get rooted way back in childhood, how it can develop these gendered patterns, and ultimately how it just eats away at the trust that intimacy needs.
Yeah, the sources are really unanimous on this. Lying, as they put it, diminishes and erodes the possibility of meaningful, caring connection. It fundamentally stands in the way of love.
You just can't nurture real growth, can you, if the core of who you are or who your partner is hidden behind lies and secrets?
Impossible. And the cost, the sources say, is terrible for both men and women, losing the capacity to really give and receive love.
Which seems to bring us back to the beginning. We need, maybe now more than ever, to think about renewing a commitment to truth-telling.
Absolutely. And it's striking, isn't it? Pretty much every mental health expert, from psychoanalysts right through to self-help gurus, they all tell us the same thing. Telling the truth is infinitely more fulfilling. It's saner.
It's healthier.
Right. And yet, as a culture, we're still somehow taught to fear the truth. We're taught to believe it always hurts. It's such a deep paradox we live with.
It really is. We often see honest people portrayed as naive.
Right.
Like they're going to be taken advantage of. They're losers in the game.
And we're just bombarded, aren't we, with cultural propaganda, as one source calls it. Think about advertising. How much of it implicitly or explicitly sanctions lying, pushes this idea that appearances, the lies, are more important than the truth, that truth doesn't really matter.
And that very lovelessness that deception breeds. Ironically, it fuels consumerism. If you can't find connection, maybe you buy something instead. Lies kind of prop up the world of predatory advertising.
And our quiet acceptance, our passive tolerance of lies in public life, in politics, in media, it just reinforces and enables the lying in our private lives too. It all connects.
So this leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty important question, doesn't it?
I think so.
Given everything we've talked about, all the ways deception hurts us, if it's true, as the sources suggest, that to know love, we have to tell the truth to ourselves and to others.
A big if, but a powerful one.
What would it actually take for each of us, individually and maybe collectively, to truly renew that commitment to truth-telling?
And perhaps on a very personal level for you listening, what might be one step, maybe even a small one, that you could take to start breaking through any denial you might have, to let go of the burden of lies or secrets in your own life?
Something to definitely mull over.
Yeah. Until our next deep dive.